freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round two recap for this week's Sentry Tournament of Champions. And joining me to break it all down, it's Greg DuCharme. What's up, Greg?
All good, Rick. A little primetime golf. We got some primetime hairdos and some primetime play. The only thing missing is Deion Sanders.
Hey,
himself. So it's been great. Great tournament so far. Love watching Hawaii when we have snow on the ground here in Connecticut and,
Do you have
much
snow?
of the Northeast. Yeah.
Do you have snow there?
Yeah, woke up to snow. Our white Christmas came a little late this year. First snow of the year.
Enough to build a snowman or anything?
Not quite. Well, I guess it's not the right texture. You know how it is, Rick. You're
Falls
a Philly
apart,
guy, right?
Yeah,
You got
a little fluffy.
Yeah, you can't make a snowball in this. Not yet. Maybe tomorrow.
I gotcha. Better weather on Maui and better scoring conditions, Greg, because if you went out and played the Plantation course today and you shot a 68, 5 under par, you lost strokes to the field. Scoring average closer to 5.2 strokes under. These guys absolutely getting after it all day long.
And there's a number of reasons for that. One, no wind. And two, you have soft conditions. Soft conditions is always interesting on a course like this because it's a course that tends to play a lot shorter than the yardage because of all the rollout you get. So now when it's soft, that roll is limited, and all of a sudden you have longer clubs in the green. But what we learn and what these great players teach us time and time again is when it's soft, the club that they have in their hand doesn't matter. They're going at the flag. They're going to hit it close. And the way these greens are rolling, it got a little firmer today than yesterday. And I think that helped the players on the greens today. I think that played a big role in why scoring got a lot lower.
Cam Smith was our 18-hole leader, and he is our 36-hole leader now, 3 shots clear of the chase pack, which is headlined by Jon Rahm and Daniel Berger. But Cam Smith got off to a little bit of a rough start, bogeyed his first 2 holes, and then, Greg, he flips the switch. An eagle on 5, birdies on 6, 7, 9. Then he makes 6 more on his second 9. The idea of making 2 bogeys to start your round on a day when the scoring average is 5 under par, it could have been over. He could have just rolled over, got a couple of these back, and we would have never heard from Cam Smith again. This was a heck of a battle back round.
There's birdies out there, which is the good thing. But at the same time, you're right. You feel like you're losing ground. You feel like you just played your way out of the tournament and you were first round leader and you're standing on the 3rd tee. But he did a great job staying with it, playing every shot the way that he figured he needed to. I think this course has some real advantages for Cam Smith and watching him. I would imagine yesterday he wasn't a guy on your list as he didn't fit the model. Let's just say that. He was extremely effective on the greens in round 1. He made 135 feet of putts. I mean, that was double many of the players in the field. And so now in round 2, you're saying he's not going to repeat that. And truth be told, he didn't repeat that, yet he still shoots a better score. He shoots 64. That's why he's so impressive. I mean, he only made 68 feet of putts today. He was 12. He barely gained a little over a half a shot on the greens. He was 12th, a little better than middle of the pack there. But he got it done today with his iron play, which was unique. And I think this course benefits him so much because if he goes wrong, he gets a little loose off the tee. And you saw it on, I think it was on 16. He hit this low near snap hook tee shot, ends up in play, and then he hits it to 4 feet. And so I think, and then the tee shot on 18 to the right, and it ends up in the fairway.
That ball on his approach shot had about 3 pounds of mud on it, a true mud ball that he had to deal with on that approach shot, and he hit an absolute peach.
Yeah, it was perfect. And you heard the announcers talking about how he had to play it right of the flag, and he's looking at how he's going to get it close. He plays it up high on the left-hand side, taking the bunkers into play, taking all the trouble in play, allows it to release and curl around that little backstop there, and makes it look easy from 117. Most guys, he had 117 in. Most guys had about 65 yards into that, into that hole location, and everybody was making birdie, but he was able to get it done with that approach play. So when I think of Cam Smith and what he's done in leads with leads in the past, under the gun in the past, I think of tee shots to the right down the stretch, just like he did at Liberty National in the playoff against Tony Finau. And this week, that's okay. You can't hit it far enough right. You hit it far right, you lose a little bit of distance, but it's going to feed down to the left and stay in the fairway. So I think with his skill set, his ability on the greens, and his approach play, he's in for this course. Really mitigates his weakness, which I think that really allowed him to get it rolling today.
Yeah, we talked about that on Monday a little bit in the DFS preview. Jacob, do we have the mud ball drop available?
Mud ball.
Oh, you the first mud ball of 2022. It only took till the second round recap. You love it. Thank you, producer Jacob. Closed with 4 birdies for his round here. Greg did Cam Smith, and you mentioned it. He is going to be the 36-hole leader. This is technically going to be the first time as an individual. Remember the Zurich Classic that he ends up winning with Mark Leishman, but the first time as an individual that he will have a 36-hole lead. Any idea what the close rate is on a 36-hole lead, according to our good friend Justin Ray?
Oh, I would say it's about, give or take, about 28.4%.
Oh, no, you saw that.
I'm sorry, I saw it. Yeah, it ruins the whole thing. I love getting put on the spot. I love, and using air quotes there, I love when you do that to me. Most of the time, I'm not so precise in my answers.
It's not a percentage that's very high, right? 28%. 1 out of 4 of these guys actually ends up going on to win the golf tournament. And we still talk. It's even crazier when you get to like a 3-shot lead with 18 holes to go, and you're still thinking, guys don't close this out enough. So still plenty of golf to be played, obviously.
Yeah, well, he shot 65-64. Okay, just think about what it takes to win out here. He shoots 65-64. He's got a 3-shot lead over 2 players. That can be made up in 2 holes tomorrow. I mean, you could be turning on the broadcast tomorrow, and he's not your leader anymore. It changes so quickly, and there's so much golf left to be played. So I think there is still. This thing is far from over. I just think the course fits Cam Smith quite nicely. And what I would worry about with him specifically in a 36-hole lead and a 54-hole lead coming down the stretch of a tournament is those tee shots. And I think this venue will really help him with that, depending on when he gets errant. There are a lot of holes where he can get away with it.
A pair of 66s for Jon Rahm in the opening rounds, both of those 7 under par, so he's 14 under. He's 3 shots back of Cameron Smith. Producer Jacob astutely pointed out before we went hot that if you were just listening and watching Jon Rahm's body language, you think these were 76s, not 66s, Greg. That's what he thinks of, his own standards that he puts on his game. But I've got an all-timer here from Justin Ray that perfectly describes how good and how in control Jon Rahm has been. So Rahm hit every single fairway and every single green on Friday.
Well, that's easy, right? They're really wide and huge greens. That's easy, right?
You would think, but in 3,000 rounds at Kapalua in the last 22 years, it's only the 5th time a golfer has pulled that one off, all fairways and all greens. He's hit 34 greens in regulation in a row. When you're doing that, greens in regulation obviously can be a flawed stat, but it just says he's constantly giving himself a bunch of looks. He's never putting himself in too much trouble. He's being the number 1 player in the world.
Well, we talked about this a little bit with Patrick Reed. I believe it was on Monday, where when you see that lack of success, both off the tee and approaching the green, it's a sign that there's an issue going on with the golf swing. And the opposite is true when you're hitting every single fairway and every single green and around. It's hard to fake. So I don't put too much into greens and regulation in total. But when you do something like this, and for 36 holes, you're hitting, or for 18 holes, 34 in a row, that's a pretty strong statement. And it says his golf swing is in really good form. And just watching it clearly is.
Daniel Berger is also T2. So Cam Smith solo first. John Rahm, Daniel Berger, they're both T2. And DB Straight vibin' also back-to-back 66s. He posted an eagle on 15, a birdie on 16. He only made par on 18, which is a hole that most guys have been taking advantage of. But Greg, I'm truly a believer that Berger is going to give us a lot in 2022, and he's positioning himself very well after the first 2 rounds of the year.
We've been very high on his iron game of late and how elite it's become, and he just continues to prove it. And now in this field, in this week, whatever this means for your weighted strokes gain stat, Rick, he was second today, right? 5th yesterday, second today. He's all over the flags, and getting to play with Cam Smith today, watching those two play together, it was kind of a different style. But I mean, if you were following that group around, I think you'd have to lean a little bit towards Daniel Berger's game. That seems to be the more consistent, the safer play, the play that's going to last a little bit longer. Cam Smith's talent throws that into question. He's just that good, and the mullet certainly helps. But I think Daniel Berger has got to be feeling really good heading into the weekend.
Your strokes gained approach leaders for round 2. Third, Cam Smith, 2.34. Second, Daniel Berger, 2.4. And a big gap to Patrick Cantlay, currently in solo 4th, gains 3.6 strokes on approach, shot a 67. We talked about it with Kyle last night on Thursday evening. He picked up right where he left off. He's doing it in a really good way, the ball striking. And it's probably no surprise to see his name on the very tippy top of this leaderboard.
I love watching him play in a pairing like he had with John Rahm today. Yeah. You see kind of contrasting styles on some holes. Now, he's an interesting case because there are times where they're neck and neck off the tee, and their ball ends up right next to each other. And you say, okay, Patrick Cantlay's got tons of clubhead speed. But then there are holes where Rahm is blasting at 60 yards by him. And yet Cantlay's hitting it. They're hitting it in the same place. I think, is it 15, the long par 4 where the whole location was in the front right. It was in a little bowl there, and both Cantlay and Rahm just missed the bowl, but there was 60 yards in between them, and he just continues to get it done in whatever way is necessary. And today he certainly didn't lean on the putting. Putting was a little bit disappointing today. He lost over 2 shots putting just today, but the ball striking, it looks like we're back at Eastlake in the Tour Championship again,
which is scary, dangerous for everybody else in the field, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good, but he's just such a steady player. And the one concern I had coming into the week was all that time off. And it's safe to say he's proved me wrong.
I believe the pairing, so it's first in, last out, right? So Rahm tapped in. I believe it's going to be John Rahm and Cam Smith, which would mean Berger and Cantlay. So those 4 in the final 2 groups on Friday, they're just going to flip-flop a little bit. It's going to be the same 4, and they're going out in the final 2 groups. It should be Cam Smith and John Rahm. That's a pretty interesting one. And in the Berger Cantlay, those guys resting heart rates won't get over 60 combined, I don't think.
Yeah, Berger Cantlay, they're going to look much more comparable, right? They're going to end up in similar positions. They'll plot their way around. It'll be boring but phenomenal golf. And then in that last group with Cam Smith and John Rahm, that's where the fireworks are, right? I mean, you're going to see some unique shots out of Cam Smith as you did today, and it's not going to be reflected on the scorecard. Well, at least you hope, if it goes anything like the past 2 days have. And then with Rahm, you're going to see a complete stripe show with that little fade down the middle all day long, and putts left short. He's got to figure that out, right?
I was just about to say, I meant to bring that up. My apologies. The John Rahm storyline was he left every putt woefully short. Right. It's obviously tough, your first couple competitive rounds out to get a feel for the greens. But I thought after like the first 8 or 9, he might have started banging some of these past the hole.
Well, I tell you, for the players on tour, it is much harder to go from fast greens to slow greens. When they slow down, it's a much bigger adjustment. When they speed up, they usually speed up throughout the week. So they're accustomed to that. It's easier. They can get more creative. They can see things. They can be more imaginative, because when greens are faster, the ball breaks more. But when they get a little bit slower and you feel like you got to hammer it, it has a way of messing with your stroke. And we're seeing it with Rahm. He's just, he doesn't quite have the feel, and you don't want to get away from what you see and what you feel and what your brain and what your eyes tell you. You have to keep that in check. If you tell yourself, I need to hit this a little harder because I've left the last 7 short, you're going to be in trouble. So you don't want to do that. But what he's seeing with his eyes and what he's feeling with his hands and what he's doing aren't matching up yet. And he's going to be in the final group, and he looks like the best player in the world. I mean,
scary.
If you're looking at this from a eye test perspective, from a statistical model perspective, I don't see very many avenues for Jon Rahm not to win this thing on Sunday.
Well, our friends over at Caesars Sportsbook do see maybe a slightly different path. We're going to talk about that and some big news coming out of the LPGA. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
I heard 1,000 stories. The road west is filled with failures.
1883, new series now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.
And we're back. Caesars Sportsbook, with a 3-shot lead, has assigned Cam Smith your favorite heading into the weekend, plus 163. It is Jon Rahm, who will be in that final group and 3 shots back, at plus 333. Daniel Berger at 5-1, Patrick Cantlay at 6.5-1, then a huge gap. So let's start with this, Greg, because Caesars is saying this is a 4-horse race. Let's start there. Does the winner come from the final 2 groups?
I believe so. And I think it's because of what I said before the break. It's hard for me to find a way that Jon Rahm doesn't win. I understand why Cam Smith rather is the favorite here. He's got a 3-shot lead, but everything has gone right for him so far. It seems like he's playing at a really high level, whereas it seems like Jon Rahm is not playing at a really high level. It seems like the best is yet to come. And I would say Berger and Cantlay, it also seems the same way. The problem with Hideki, who's only 1 shot behind Cantlay,
right?
Which
is important, Greg, because if Cam Smith falters, those guys at 12 under are live again. So that's why this Hideki thing's important.
Even if they don't, I mean, Hideki shot 8 under today. That's his problem, which is crazy to say, but it's unlikely that you're going to shoot 8 under again tomorrow. But I could see Sung Jae Im shooting 8 under tomorrow. Kevin Knox, I mean, it's out there. Those scores are definitely out there, and you don't have to do too much with all you have 4 par 5s. You have a drivable par 4. You have a number of shorter par 4s and some really downhill longer holes that play short. There's a lot of wedge opportunities, and you have soft greens. So there are really low numbers out there. It's just a matter of who can do it. So, I mean, a 5-shot lead I don't think is safe. And I don't even think Cam Smith has to come back to the field. I don't think he has to shoot over par to let those guys in. It's just that maybe you feel like their best round kind of came out today. But then again, Cam Smith did the same thing. He shot 64. What's your read on this? Is it crazy to think that Matsuyama and Im are too far back or that far back?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just because of the caliber of golfer ahead of them.
That's fair.
What's the likelihood that Cam Smith, okay, right. He's not going to shoot over par, but if he shoots 2 3-under rounds, with what we saw on Friday, that's going to open it up. But then you've got Berger there. You've got Jon Rahm there. You've got Patrick Cantlay there. The last 2 have been basically the best 2 players on planet Earth for a year. So that's tough. And also, my kind of issue with both Hideki and Sungjae is what's the winning score going to be? Are we getting to 27 under par? You're going to have to make a lot of putts is what I'm getting at. And I don't necessarily love that for Hideki and Sungjae.
I would agree. I agree. And I think that likely plays into the role here. Where Berger, Cantlay rather, he didn't make anything today, still got 6 under out of it. You got to start making putts to get into that 8, 9, 10 under par round. I don't think you have to go crazy to shoot 6 or 7 under par. I don't think you need that many long ones. There are opportunities out there to have really short birdie putts consistently. And the way Hideki and Sungjae can knock down the flag sticks, I don't worry about that too much. Look, I agree. I think the best point in this is the caliber of players ahead of them and the likelihood that all 4, Cam Smith, Jon Rahm, Daniel Berger, and Patrick Cantlay, don't beat Sungjae and Hideki Matsuyama over the weekend with the cushion that they have. I can buy that argument, but I think as many birdies as there are out there, I think this can change very quickly.
Would you take Cam Smith or the field right now?
The field.
I think I would take the field too. So you've got Rahm, Berger, Cantlay, but so Cantlay's a small negative with the putter. Rahm is a small positive for the week, and Berger's a small negative. That is a disaster for everybody else in the field when when one of those guys has a hot putting round or two. Cantlay at 6.5 to 1, being 1 shot back of Berger and Rahm and losing strokes around the green and losing strokes on the putting surface is a problem. That's a problem. Now, Jon Rahm is his own problem. He's leading the field in strokes gained off the tee. He's been great on approach. He hasn't been all that good in the short game. There are 2 big problems lurking with Jon Rahm and Patrick Cantlay that they're like Thanos, right? Like they're inevitable at this point.
Yes. And you watch Jon Rahm putt especially. And it's not like he's hitting bad putts. Like the way Justin Thomas, you watch him putt this week and it's been bad. It's been really bad putting. He's the guy that's out there, needs to be on the green late at night, and is. He knows it. Everybody knows it. It's really bad putting. He'd be the first to tell you. But when you look at Jon Rahm, it's frustrating putting. And if you remember in the past couple of years with Jon Rahm, he's finished, I think, tied 7th, a couple of top 10s. One of them was a tied 7th. I think it was last year. And the problem he had was he got off to a slow start on the greens. And this year, it's been a slow start on the greens, but he's right there in the mix and in the final group. He's played his way into contention despite a slow start on the green. So I think as time goes on for Jon Rahm, the way he's putting, they're going to start going in. And it could be tomorrow, could be Sunday, and
it could be both.
It could be both. But I don't think it's none of them. I'd be really surprised if we're sitting here Sunday saying Jon Rahm just couldn't make anything. I don't think that's going to happen.
Let's get out of here on some more good news. The USGA announces not only future U.S. Women's Open sites, but a massive increase in the purse to the point where the 2022 U.S. Women's Open champion will receive $1.8 million, Greg. The purse is going up to $10 million. To put that into perspective, $1.8 million. Only 3 players on the entire tour earned more than that for the entire season last year. We are seeing an influx of cash, which generally creates a more competitive, a more sponsor-heavy, a more eyeball watching situation. This is a huge step forward for the ladies' game.
It's not the way it normally goes, right? You typically think, well, the purses follow the viewership. The purse follows the sponsors, which follows the viewership. It usually goes down that path. When we have more money, we'll pay you more money. When you bring in more, we'll pay you more. But the USGA has taken a different approach on this. I have to think Mike Wan, being a former LPGA commissioner, is saying, hey, this is the biggest problem in the women's game, according to the women in the game and analysts, and this is a very, very common commentary in this aspect. And he's saying, we're going to fix the problem, and we can. So good for them. It's a massive jump. That number is enormous, and it's going to really increase the pressure in that event. It'll make the event, it'll make it compelling. And I think the golf courses that they're playing at will also help. It'll help viewership, and it'll help the entire game. Maybe you get a fan. Maybe it helps the rest of the schedule on the LPGA Tour as well.
The courses that they announced that you're referring to. So the new courses that were announced are 2026 and out. Riviera in 2026, Inverness Club in 2027. Here's a fun one. Pinehurst number 2. They're going to go back to back in 2029. So the men are going to play, I believe it's 1 week, and the ladies will play Pinehurst number 2 the following week, which is going to be an awesome event, an awesome couple of weeks. They're taking advantage of some of these really prestigious, awesome courses and just throwing everything they've got at this game.
Yeah, and it's helpful when you have a great venue. It's very helpful, and especially when it's a place like Pinehurst that you have a little familiarity with, a place like Riviera that we have some familiarity with. It adds an element of intrigue. Well, how do the men who I watch every week, how do they play the golf course, and how do the women play the golf course? What's the difference? There'll be some curious viewers who just want to see what Riviera looks like at the Genesis versus at the U.S. Women's Open. And Pinehurst back to back. That's what they did in 2014 when Martin Keimer and Michelle Wie won, and it was great. You get 2 weeks at a certain venue, and Pinehurst is an anchor site for the USGA now, so that'll go a long way as well in that. So it's a big move. I was really surprised but encouraged to see that purse increase. I think it's substantial. It's not just a thought; it is substantial.
Awesome stuff, Greg. You and I again on Saturday night, correct?
Correct. And I'll be here Sunday too. Can't wait.
Oh, 3 days in a row for Greg DuCharme. Yeah. You can follow him on Twitter.
And Monday, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We're into it. We're into it, man. We are not stopping 4 days in a row.
Yep.
5 days. You'll be here on Tuesday? No Tuesday.
Maybe. I don't know yet. We'll
maybe 5 in a row. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can follow Greg on Twitter at @TheRealGFD. You can follow me at @RickRunGood. Producer Jacob does all the hard work behind the scenes, so thank you, Jacob. And this has been The First Cut. We'll see you tomorrow night.